Welcome to the Falling Off the Floor podcast. I'm your host, Austin Becker, and this is your home for adventure, travel, addiction, recovery, the outdoor and ski industry, and of course, redemption. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Falling Off the Floor podcast. This week, we have a special guest with us, Noah Dines. Noah is currently going for the world record for human-powered ski vertical feat. And you're going for 3 million miles, correct, Noah?
3 million vertical feet, yeah, correct.
That is insane. Where are you at in terms of your goal at the moment?
I'm like 30,000 feet shy of halfway, so just under 1.5 million.
Wow. That is something else, man. Are you... What program or what services are you using to track everything?
It's all on my watch. I'm on a Garmin watch, and then it's all on Strava. And then I also my dad pulls it into a spreadsheet that I occasionally look at. But in essence, it's just the number Strava tells me is the number
Amazing.
Still to go. It's not
So
that complicated.
Yeah, I read in an article, in order to get this done, you need to do like close to 10,000 vertical feet a day.
Yeah, so when I started out, my math was I'd ski 330 days, and I needed to average 9,090 feet a day to hit 3 million. I've skied a lot more. I'm averaging over 10,000 feet. I don't remember the exact number. It's on the spreadsheet that I don't look at that much. But yeah, I'm averaging over 10,000 feet, including days off so far, which is, I'm skiing a lot more than I thought I was going to.
That's amazing. What has been your favorite day of skiing so far this year?
Probably my two best powder days. One was in Chamonix, which was just incredible. And then another was just a couple days ago on Berthoud Pass, the day after driving out here. I woke up to, 4 to 6, and it was one of those, I was far from acclimated, but just pounding out laps, kind of felt like a fever dream, but it was phenomenal skiing in May. So those are probably my two best snow days. I don't know if they were necessarily like the two absolute best days but they were like the two standout snow quality days.
That's awesome, man. We're based here in Colorado. You were mentioning you're up in Winter Park area at the moment, up on Berthoud Pass, and that is our stomping grounds. I'm at 100-something days right now, and probably half of them are in that area. So we understand the sentiment of this late May snow. It's something else.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I've been pretty unlucky with conditions, so to have a little late May powder day was refreshing, to say the least.
Yeah, so a little bit of background about you. You're from Stowe, Vermont, correct?
So originally from outside of Boston. I've lived in Stowe since just before the pandemic.
Okay.
And that's
awesome.
Home.
Okay. And is that where you started this challenge?
Yeah, I started at midnight on January 1st at Stowe. Did one lap by myself there, right as the clock struck.
That is amazing. That is so cool.
That was cool. That was surreal.
Yeah, so you started in Vermont. It sounds like you made it to Europe. What was the inspiration to go to Europe for skiing?
Yeah, so the inspiration was that when I booked tickets to Europe, they had the best snow and the best access to backcountry and also, if needed, resorts. So I booked for 2 months, and like I said, like I drove west, I booked to Europe with zero intent, with no intention of exactly where. That was a figure it out later. I'm going to Europe. I also like Europe. I speak French. And I hadn't skied in Europe, and they were having a good snow year. that ended up not being how things went, but uh, it
Yeah.
was so. I mean, it was sweet, but yeah, 2 months in Europe.
Where in Europe did you end up?
So I was in essence lent an apartment outside of Chamonix in Saint-Gervais in France.
Okay.
That was about a month there, and then I moved over to Austria, mostly in Innsbruck, and then I was with a friend in Saint Anton for a week too.
Awesome.
Yeah, it
Do
was
you
unreal.
Is it your favorite place to ski in the world now?
Um, no, that's Stowe. But certainly
Good
it's
answer.
it's it is a wonderful place to live a skiing life. I ended up having pretty awful conditions, but good lord, is it a lovely place to be. Just
Yeah.
like as I've said about that portion of this journey, the skiing was generally pretty bad. Uh, but everything else was phenomenal. Like, look,
That's
you're shoving down pain au chocolat and like Lord knows what Austrian things. They're phenomenal. I don't know what they are. And like everybody loves skiing. Yeah, oh, it was great. It's gorgeous. I think St. Anton's the
yeah.
most visually impressive place I've ever skied. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've spent quite a bit of time in Europe and never in the winter.
Hmm.
And like I'm going to Europe again in August, and I'm like kicking myself. I need to just go ski the damn con- various places around Europe. It's the time has come.
Yeah,
So you're
it's
here
easy.
in Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah, you're here in Colorado. You mentioned before the podcast your next step is bumping up to Mount Hood, up to the glacier,
Yeah,
and then
yeah. I mean,
you're
I'm
just playing
here.
everything by ear.
I should probably go to Utah since I somehow, as a skier, have never stepped foot in that state. Uh, it's at this point a pretty funny bit. Uh,
Yeah,
but I should probably do that. And I'm also considering maybe like California. I've never skied Tahoe, never skied Shasta, but eventually, yeah. So a little bit of Mountain West Coast, and then set up camp again at Mount Hood.
and once the snow's kind of wearing out here in the U.S., are you're thinking about going south? Where would be your first choice if you went to South America?
Uh, that's two moves away, so I don't know. But Bariloche, Refugio Fry. Uh, a lot of my strategy is kind of letting things set up so that I don't fly into no snow.
Yeah, and I've been seeing online and on social, it seems like everyone wants to know what you eat. And that I feel like has been answered by you a million times. So
Again, if you want, yeah.
I won't bore everyone. It's a lot of food. The guys stays fueled.
Yeah.
uh, but my big question is, where did this all come from? What inspired you to just kind of drop everything and do this?
So that's a good question, and it's simple and it's not so simple. The simple answer is I. The simple answer and the not so simple answer, I guess, are kind of the same. But I, over the past few years, especially post pandemic, started to be the guy that would ski a lot or bike a lot, and then the next day do the same thing. And all of a sudden I was that guy that was just doing a little bit more than most people I knew.
Yeah.
Uh, so people had, and also, so the current record holder, Aaron Rice, lives in Stowe. He skied 2.5 million vertical feet in 2016. So, the idea of skiing a lot has been around, but I always said, no, 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 that wouldn't be fun. I like skiing because skiing is fun. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that started to change probably last year, year and a half ago, as all of a sudden I was starting to ski or ride a lot more, and I was still having fun. And
Yeah.
then, I was, kind of like, I wasn't thinking about it. People had mentioned it to me, as I said, but it was never, I have other things. I like doing other things in skiing, in life. And then I was coming home from a bad date in Burlington, driving on I-89 from Burlington to Stone. I said, and I was tutoring, uh, working a few different jobs. And I said, what am I doing? It was just not just a boring date. I was like, what am I doing? It's like, you know what, Noah, you should go for Aaron's record. And that was it. Uh, that by the time I got home, I was like, gosh, shit. Now I have to do this next year. It's like, if you don't
Yeah.
do it, you're never going to get it out of your head. So
Yeah.
yeah, I recorded a little video the next day. It was like, I don't remember the day. It's like, it's February 7th. And I think I want to go for Aaron's record. And that was that. All of a sudden that weight was on my shoulders.
Yeah. You let the world know you're going for it.
Yeah, it took a little while before I posted that or anything. Of course,
Yeah.
I went to Aaron first, I think, before even any of my other really close friends. I said, so, what would your thoughts be if I wanted to go do this? And it was yes, absolutely. Anything that I can do to support you, I will,
That's amazing.
which has been invaluable, just beyond.
So there was no level of like, come on, dude, go get a different record. It was like, no, you should beat my record and like, let's do this.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think the text or somewhere it's, I will be your biggest supporter. It's been the
That's so
total
cool.
opposite of it. Like, yeah, there's absolutely no animosity. We skied actually the last day I skied in Vermont before I left. Well, not in Vermont. We went to Mount Washington together, which was kind of cool because last year around the same time we went to Mount Washington together for Tuckerman Ravine, and
Yep.
just hearing kind of like listening to how our conversations changed. It was just kind of before I was like, what do you do? How do you go about this? What do you, like, how is this possible? And so much of it's, when we can get into this later, more than just the skiing. The skiing will is kind of separate from the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then this year it was really funny. It's like, did this happen to you? Or do you remember feeling like this? Or, so seeing it, it wasn't like, what, like you're some alien. It's like, we're both aliens, but we're from the same planet.
I, it's funny. I didn't know much. I had like seen rumblings about this goal you were going for on social media and stuff. And I was on the Out of Collective podcast a month or so ago, and they posted something about you yesterday. And I
Yep.
was like, oh, this guy, this is awesome. I got to talk to this guy. And I, my whole life has kind of been centered around things like this. My big thing in my podcast is about talking about like mental health and substance abuse recovery within the ski industry and overcoming injury. And I love like setting huge goals for myself. And when I see other people doing it, I'm never going to ski 3,000 vertical man powered feet. Naveed, my producer here, tries to get me to go trail running. I'll go bike 75 miles before I'll run like 2 miles
uh,
uh, any day. And this guy tries to drive me to do these crazy cardio things with him. I'm a downhill guy. Are you as much of a downhill guy as you're an uphill guy, or do you enjoy the uphill more?
um, this is such a hard one to answer. Everybody asks but what I like is going out and skiing. And to me, skiing at this point isn't uphill or downhill. It is going up and down and putting my skins on, taking my skins off. I love the downhill. I love going fast. I love catching a little air. I love the feeling of wind in my hair. I love powder skiing. I absolutely adore that. I also
Yeah.
love working hard and pounding it uphill or not pounding it and kind of leisurely walking uphill. So I really enjoy, and I think I've said this before, like the best part about having some fitness is that you can enjoy the whole activity.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's what it's really about. It's that it's not an uphill and a downhill. It's I'm going out skiing, and for me, skiing is uphill and downhill. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It those aren't. They're not separable for me anymore. There's not two distinct parts of skiing.
Yeah.
It's
When was
just
the last time you rode a chairlift?
somewhere around this time last year, closing day at J Peak.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah,
So
a hell of a
you
good time.
the yeah, chairlifts, they do that thing where they take you uphill, and man, sometimes I love it.
Yeah.
But I will say, I've skied about 100 some odd days this year, and I've done almost a 50-50 split, like 40 or 50 touring days. And in the beginning of the season, I always say I'm only touring as a means to get to badass lines. That's the
Mhm.
only thing I ever say. I tour in order to get to these places. And towards the end of the season this year, when I've been cruising and cruising on tours, I'm like, wow, maybe I am like an uphill guy. And Outsider Magazine came out with this like whole article
Yeah,
recently.
I've seen that. You can't imagine how many
Yeah.
people sent that one to me.
The distinction between the downhill and the uphill. And I did like reading it because I always thought of myself, I'm strictly a downhill guy. I competed my entire life until my injury, and riding chairlifts was like the means to my competition and
Right.
competing and everything. And then post injury and turning more into a big mountain skier now, it's I look at touring as like you can't ski some of this shit in bounds. Like it just doesn't exist. You have to
You have to get yourself there.
manpower your way. Yeah, you got to get yourself there. If you really want the good stuff, it takes some work. And it's weird because we tour here in Colorado. A lot of it's 12,000, 10 to 12,000 feet you're like touring at. And it's a different ball game. And we flew out to Alaska in end of January, early February, and we were crushing out
Oh,
10,000 vertical days at sea level, and we're like, we're the kings of the world.
yeah. I can't wait to go down and feel real
Yeah.
strong.
Are you feeling a pretty significant difference here in Colorado at this high elevation on the uphill, or are you so physically fit at this point that it's not really you don't see a huge difference?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, the thing with altitude is you can't run, you can't hide. You have
Yeah.
to pay. Uh, so I drove out here, slept in the world's biggest truck stop on I-80 in Iowa,
Yep.
and then then drove for whatever 10, 12 hours. Plan was to come to Winter Park. Then I saw the Birth at Pass Summit turn off. Said, "Oh, that's a place you go skiing," and ripped my truck apart, finding the things you need to go skiing as the sun was setting.
Yeah.
The worst headlight. I have no idea where my good headlight is, and like put out 1,500 feet. And then I didn't go
Wow.
beneath 11.3 or 11 for another 2-ish days, and I was
Yeah.
hurting. That's when we got that powder day. I was hurting pretty good. I got my 10,000 feet both of those next 2 days, uh, but it was harder. I wasn't
Yeah.
altitude sick. I was just slow, and it was hard
Yeah.
and tired. Uh, Now I'm feeling a lot better. I've been sleeping closer to 9, skiing from like 9 to 12 or 10, 9, 5 to 12. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm definitely not as fast yet as I have been, but now it's fun again. The whole thing is fun again. It's not kind of that march.
Yeah. So in terms of getting these feet done in a day, you obviously like there's avalanche risk, especially here in Colorado, and getting 10,000 vertical feet is sometimes could seem pretty difficult on things that are not super steep. Are you what's kind of your routine, because you're out there alone a lot,
Yep.
I'm assuming. What's
Yeah.
kind of your routine in terms of avalanche safety and making sure that you're safe in the backcountry? Because if you're doing this every day, there's definitely days you're skiing kind of in the red. How do you mitigate that? Do you
By not
pick
doing
just
that.
low angle stuff?
Uh,
Yeah.
by by my especially where I've been in zones that I'm not super familiar with, uh,
Yeah.
it's resort uphill laps or
Okay.
resort adjacent. I have absolutely zero problem banging out a ton of those. I love to ski in the
Okay.
backcountry, and sometimes it's a hell of a lot easier not to do that.
Okay.
Especially like not being a Colorado native
Yeah.
here. Like, I skied Berthoud Pass, but kept it chill. And now as we're getting into spring, um, I'll feel more comfortable, pushing some boundaries. In the Pacific Northwest, I know that a little better in its
Yeah.
lower avalanche risk. Um, I think so. When Aaron did it, he skied in Utah. He was living up at Alta, and he knew it super well. Uh, I've done the vast majority of my skiing in Vermont, uh, so I trying to keep things pretty simple as much as
Yeah.
possible. Uh, because the thing I'm doing is so hard, the skiing, that I want other things to be easy. So the idea of spending an hour digging a pit and knowing that you're 7,000 feet in, and you've got this additional human uh, trait to want to get my 10,000 feet. Uh, that I'm definitely doing pretty much everything more conservatively. Just the way I
Yeah.
ski is more conservative. My approach to terrain is more conservative. Um, just I I don't want to put myself in jeopardy or this year in jeopardy. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Have you
just
dealt with injury at all throughout this? Blisters, feet falling apart, you know, muscles, anything? Have you stayed relatively healthy the whole time?
no, I felt really good. Uh,
Yeah.
breaking in new liners hurt for like 5 days in Europe. Altitude hurt for about 2.5, 3 days here.
Yep.
Some days you feel better than others, but I wake up and I feel fine generally.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know, I skied 15,000 feet one day in France, and it was soggy, so eventually I got a pretty big blister, but then I just threw duct tape over it. But that was the only blister. I've spent a lot of time with the boot fitter.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. So you haven't really run into avalanche concerns. You've stepped away from that. Have you been in the backcountry and had any sketchy situations in
Uh,
this go of it?
Nothing really to write home about. There's always little situations, but nothing really scary. The scariest was in France. I was like just off of a resort because in Europe
Mhm.
the differentiation is very bizarre for an
Yeah.
American skier. Like you have the groomed piste. So like, and also when I was in Europe, the avalanche conditions were generally non-existent because it didn't snow, except when I was in St. Anton when the wet, loose avalanches were absurd. Uh,
Yeah.
but so they groom a piste. They put bamboo poles, and then I think they are not responsible for like anything other than a foot and a half outside of this groom. So like in the middle of the ski resort, there is totally uncontrolled terrain. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, it's wild. It is so Euro. It is like it's not. It's just so, which is great because then people don't ski it because they're scared of avalanches. But
Yeah.
anyways, so I was like in a situation or just above a resort, Lake Contamine in in France, and all of a sudden, just a gnarly whiteout came in,
Yeah.
like just the whitest of white. So getting skiing out of that was, I was like, I don't understand how more people don't just disappear in these mountains. That was probably the most,
Yeah.
uh, shockingly, a week or two later, people did just disappear in Switzerland outside of Zermatt. But yeah,
Oh man.
it's that's real. That was a good reminder. Um, Skied over a couple of crevasses somewhere. I can't even remember where I skied near crevasses.
Yeah.
On the Argentière Glacier. All of a sudden, you're just like, ah, yes. And they also take safety incredibly uh, differently. I was meeting up with a guy I kind of met off the internet, and it was like whatever. And I was like, so we're gonna ski on glacier kit. He goes, yeah, harness, ice screw, and like a sling. And I was like, okay, so I have a Petzl radline. I can bring a radline. He's like, no, we don't bring a rope. I was like, but we're skiing on a glacier. He says, yeah, you fall in, you put in the ice screw. I call the chopper. The chopper comes and gets you. I fall in, I put in the ice screw. You call the chopper. The chopper comes and gets us. I was like, okay. And that's how everybody was approaching this. It was
Wow.
mind boggling to the American skier. Like,
Yeah. That is out of control.
yeah, their
So
approach to safety is the helicopter.
yeah. So with a challenge like this, obviously you're not exactly working.
Correct.
And is a lot of this, were you able to get help from sponsors and stuff to help fund this year and challenge?
Less than I would like. Um,
Okay.
Very little so far monetarily. I've had tremendous help with gear. Uh, Money is a lot harder to get. Also,
Yeah.
I'm coming into this. I came into this with zero clout and athletic background.
Yeah.
I didn't play a varsity sport in high school, much less D1 in college.
Yeah.
Am 29. I was 28 when I started thinking about this. I had zero like real big accomplishments to my name uh, in the ski world. Things I was proud of, but nothing to turn any heads. So a lot of it was like, okay, kid, adult man, you say you're going to do this. Sure. Like, how do we know? Like,
Yeah.
like my friends say I could do it. I say I could do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, the everything other than the skiing has been hard. Now, it's a little easier dealing with sponsors and other things because I have I've got a little proof in the pudding.
Yeah. So did you save up to do this? How
Yeah, so
essentially how are you staying on the road this long?
a lot of it is I've just been squirreling away money. I'm living
Yeah.
cheaply, and it turns out people really want to give me money. And I really resisted this, but I eventually was coerced, in essence, into setting up a GoFundMe, uh,
Yeah.
and I refuse to post about it uh,
Yeah.
because that's my line. If people want to give me money, they can give me money, and it turns out, and it's cool for this is great. This is I am thrilled about this. Uh,
Yeah.
People like what I'm doing and want to support it, which has been awesome. So so far, that's actually been the majority of it. I certainly am going to have to be, and I have dipped into my own. I'm also
Yeah.
hoping that as the year progresses and I have gained more publicity and uh, I've done something rather than saying I'm going to do something. I'm really hoping that I will be able to pull sponsor money, uh, endorsements, whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
that would be fantastic. I'm sure, as you know, it's a really hard world.
Yep.
Yep. And
And this time of year starts getting scary for North American skiers as it is with me. Luckily, I have other endeavors going on, but this time of year, it's like all right, it's time to, you got to buckle up, figure it out, and start working your ass off so you can do it again next year. And, you know, I, I get that. I competed for a long time, and when I was competing and had something to show for it, it was a lot easier. And then I have my injury. I deal with substance abuse and mental health for many years. And when I came back to skiing, I'm like, hey, I'm still a pretty good skier. You guys want to like fund this? And they're like, what? Who are you? Like, weren't you just in rehab like 5 seconds ago? Like, no, grow up, figure it out.
Yeah.
And my producer, Naveed, actually, about close to 2 year or over a year ago, just out of nowhere, handed me an Insta 360, and he was like, "Dude, just record this." And so I put the thing out in front of me and skied this blower line exactly where you're at in Winter Park at Mary Jane. This like soup last season was incredible out here, but this like chest deep blower day, upload the clip, and it, kind of popped off. And I was like, maybe I should just start doing this. Like, maybe this is my angle back into skiing, using social media and like talking about my story. And
Yeah.
sure enough, like it works. So, like, that same thing, I can tell you without a doubt, will happen. Like, you're building that proof in the pudding that people look at this now and they're like, holy shit, this guy's actually gonna, he's doing it. Like,
People love a winner.
you're in the seven figures, and that is something that not many people will ever be able to say, that they have manpowered a million vertical feet in a season. Like, that is, I thought in Alaska at sea level doing 10,000 was like the craziest thing in the world. And it I got back to Colorado and it was a rude awakening. I do like 3,000 feet and I'm like, oh God, like, get me a defib immediately. Uh, so you're out here in Colorado. You're in your truck right now. Is that
Yep.
what you travel in when you're here in the States? Or you've got like a truck
Uh,
camper built out or something?
yeah, no, yeah, no. Well, so um, I was in an apartment. I had an apartment in Stowe,
Yeah,
which was phenomenal. And so far, what I've been saying. This is not built out. I have one, two, three foam pads in one blow up pad, and then some sleeping bags. I sleep cuddling my skis, pretty much. This is an
nice.
'03 Tacoma. Uh,
Hell yeah, tacos
yep,
run forever, man.
yep. It's quite small in the back and in the front, so everything's a mess. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna, as long as it makes sense, I'm gonna stay in the truck. If it starts to be if it a real drain on performance, then I'll figure something else out. I feel that I owe it to kind of the record and to the people that are supporting me and myself to approach this in a professional manner,
yeah,
and that even whatever, $2,000 down in 10 years won't matter, but
yeah,
2 weeks of doing badly and being miserable for a month in government camp at Mount Hood,
yeah,
that I owe it to kind of the idea of doing something really hard to invest in myself. That being said, if I can do it in the truck, that would be awesome. Like, so
yeah,
I'm not saying one way or the other. So far it's working. If that changes,
yeah,
then I'll deal with that when that changes.
yeah. And luckily, once you get up to Gov Camp and Mount Hood, so many people are doing this lifestyle of like living in the bed of a truck or living out of the car. It is,
I know.
there's a big
I
community.
spent some time there
Yeah,
2 summers ago. I drove out and skied a bunch of volcanoes in the morning and rode bikes in the afternoon.
yeah. It's pretty incredible. Are you traveling with your bike right now?
I didn't bring a bike. I didn't feel like dealing with it. Um,
Yeah. I think
I
10K enough on skis is
Yeah,
enough for
I
a
might
day.
pick up like one just as like a townie at some point, but
Yeah,
yeah, no, I'm not.
awesome.
I can't risk myself mountain biking.
Yeah. Well, I know my producer Naveed wants to ask you a few questions. He's super interested in everything that you're doing. So I'm going to give him the floor here for a
Yeah,
sec to
fire
talk to
away.
you about this stuff.
Hey man, I've been
And
kind of
Naveed,
following your hey, how's it going, man? I've been kind of following your journey for like quite a bit actually, and so the questions that I have, one of the things was actually I followed you just today on Instagram,
yeah.
and I've seen you before, but I followed you just today. But I saw that Jeremy Jones follows you, and I got like super hyped about it. I was, holy shit, he's like my idol. He follows
Wait,
this guy.
this is going to be a wild story.
All right, let's hear it first.
Um, yeah. So Jeremy Jones follows me, uh,
Yeah,
because when I first moved to Stowe,
yeah.
I taught they're his cousins. They're two twins. I was their science then French teacher.
No way.
Yeah. So so Jeremy Jones is his cousin, lives in Stowe. In the twins, I was their science then French teacher, and then I met Jeremy. We rode mountain bikes in Stowe together with his son Cass, I believe is his name, and hung out.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Hossetters. Um, so yeah, that's why Jeremy Jones follows me, is because
That's super
yeah.
rad. I was like kind of off my chair. I was like, holy shit, is like my idol. But my follow up question is like, like doing this and just like in your whole snow sport career, who is like the one person you can think about that's like inspires you the most?
I don't have a great answer to that. I think that there are different parts of it that are
Mhm.
inspiring, different parts of people. Like you've got the Killians of the world,
Yes.
Killian Jornet, who just, an athlete unlike any other, uh, who can just do more than anybody. And if he wanted to go for this record, he would just simply double it or whatever. Uh, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm better than Killian at literally anything. Uh,
Yeah.
but so like you see somebody like that, uh, you see the Cody Townsends, of course. Um,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
yeah, who have made human powered skiing cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
My gosh. Yes. Like I
yeah,
followed all his 50 projects. They're phenomenal.
yeah, and so I think those are two names that come to mind. I'm sure there are more. I I never have been like deep into like following skiing, like
Gotcha.
as a I don't know. It's just something I do. I don't like watching
Yeah.
movies, so I haven't watched like all the ski movies. Um,
Uh,
of course, like McConkey is like cool as shit. Uh,
yeah.
Jane McConkey. Um,
Yeah.
Doug Coombs is from the town I grew up in, which is cool, but I didn't know that until much later in life.
Nice.
So
That's awesome, man. Yeah, those are fantastic names. Another question that I had for you, I'm sure you know Greg Hill, right?
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah,
legend that the legend that had this record,
yep,
first one to break 2 million. He luckily got like a nickname 2 mil Greg Hill, right? Like that was like he was known for.
yep.
What would be your nickname? Have you thought of anything or have anybody suggested any name to you?
I haven't heard anything yet. I don't know. That's a good one.
Yeah, just get it out there. Like, hey, people, like,
Yeah,
find
I
a
don't
find
know.
a name for me.
Yeah, maybe one of our listeners will have a good one.
Yeah, like, yeah.
2.5 Dine.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like another one was for actually kind of Greg Hill related too, but like I saw that I was reading an article about you. It was like you first month, I think you broke the record for most vertical in 1 month. Am I wrong about that? Or
No, you're
in
you're
January?
completely. Yeah, yeah. I skied 378,000.
Yeah, and you broke
Mm,
Brooks. Poor Greg Hills. Like we love you, Greg, by the way, but like your record's just flying out of the door right now.
Yeah, I
But
mean his record I maintain is cooler because he didn't ski the exact same line twice.
mm,
He was in Rogers Pass. I was in Stowe, Vermont.
he
Uh,
was. I mean, he had a
yeah,
lot of options.
yeah. So mine were limited, especially because there was generally horrible or no snow. Uh, but yeah, I put like somewhere around just under 50,000 on that record.
Yeah. That's crazy. But like, given that that was your first month, my question was like, were you ever like, like thinking about, okay, can I beat that for myself, like that 1 month record, or like that's not gonna be your goal for the rest of this season?
Uh, I mean, of course I've thought about it, but it all depends on snow, travel, and access and conditions.
Yeah.
Uh, like even though the snow was generally bad, conditions were fine. And despite the East Coast mountains not necessarily being as tall, they're not.
Hmm.
Like
No.
it's inarguable. Uh, a run at Stowe is 2,000 around 2,000 feet,
Okay.
and it's incredibly efficient in terms of the angle.
Yeah.
So it's just if you want to, you can just inhale vert at Stowe
Wow.
and then around Stowe.
Yeah.
There are very few places that I found that are more efficient.
Hmm.
Patrickhoffel in Austria, you can ski about 3,000 feet of the Olympic downhill track, and then
Yeah.
1,000 feet of like free ride terrain above it, like just that's not part of
Nice.
the resort. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
pretty darn efficient too. But also in Stowe, I
Nice.
was living like 10 minutes from the mountain. I would go ski 6K mid morning, come home, nap, eat, go out and ski 6K at night. Um, so it was just a combination of factors that made that possible.
Yeah.
And
That's
if
yeah.
if it lines up again, sure, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's
maybe
it. That's
someday
an
I'll,
insane amount. Yeah.
yeah, like if it lines up again, I'd do it. And maybe another year, I don't know. This is far from a promise. I'd go for Greg's record of not skiing the same line, but you really have to be so familiar with the place. Um,
You have to be.
yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Look, if it comes, I rebroke the record, so to speak. I skied 333,000 in April,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't
Nice.
mind having like the full podium to myself.
Heck yeah. That's amazing, dude. But okay, another question would be, what do you think, not for this current record that you're chasing, what do you think would be a human limit? Given like you've tested yourself right now and you are an accomplished athlete, but like, there are like
Yeah.
even more freak of natures, or like, given everything goes perfectly, what do you think is humanly possible in your opinion?
Somebody asked me this recently, and I said 5 million, which would be really hard. And I think
Wow.
so. There's a lot of caveats to that, though. You're not skiing backcountry. You're
No.
skiing at a resort. You're skiing entirely on like carbon boots, skimo skis, and you're staffed. You have like you're not cooking. You're never going to the supermarket.
No.
Somebody else is doing that for you.
It's all assisted, yeah.
Yeah. When you do have to fly somewhere, you're doing it, you're not buying the cheapest ticket or whatever. You're buying the most efficient ticket.
Yeah.
So you don't even miss a day. I think
Exactly.
5 million is humanly very possible. I think probably
Wow.
more than that. I mean, you're starting to get into just it's a
Yeah.
ton of skiing and it's a ton of time, but you reduce
It's
that time
insane
by,
amount. Yeah.
skiing like 500-gram boots, 700
Yeah.
gram ski, skiing only that, only groomers, never trying to ski something, and not to say that that isn't fun, and it can be fun, but you're not getting variety, I think.
No.
And
I mean, it is possible, but that is, yeah, that is like, you have to have like the machine that just like doesn't shut down, like, like 24/7. It's like that guy, I'm blanking on his name, but there is this somebody in Colorado that broke the 54 14ers record on like under 10 days.
was it Chris Fish? No, he did the winter
Yeah.
one.
No, that his name sounds familiar, but I don't think he's the one. But like it happened in not that long ago, probably like within the last 5 years. But that's
Uh-huh.
just it's a crazy thing. Like, he was completely aided. Everybody drove for him. He slept in the car. Every food was like, and every meal was pre-made. Like, it was totally planned. I mean, it's still an insane accomplishment, but the logistical part is big part of like these kind of accomplishments. And
Yeah,
you're doing for the
undoubtedly.
most part is on your own. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and for something like that, you have to be a machine, but more importantly, you're just part of the machine that's making
You're
it
part of
happen.
the bigger ecosystem
Yeah,
that's like aiding you into this thing. That's
yeah,
crazy.
which is
5 million.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, I think, there's there's a saying, I think it's in climbing and elsewhere. There's no cheating in climbing, only lying. That that there's if you got to the top of something, that's fine. Just say if you pulled on every like quick draw, as long as you say that, that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as you're honest, then you're not cheating. You did it in a specific way. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why and that's is critical for me too. Like I'm not saying that I did all of this in the backcountry. That would be
Yeah.
far from the truth. And I would
No,
like
yeah.
to probably have done more of it and have done more here already in the backcountry. But the margins are slim, and especially in
Yeah.
Vermont, and especially with crap snow in Europe, you
Yeah.
take what you can get. I love skiing,
Yeah.
however I do
Exactly.
it.
I mean, it's kind of like, really infuriating actually when people like comes at like, people who are athletes and trying to accomplish something and like, just like nagging, oh, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Go do it then. Just like,
Yeah,
please.
I think like you see that in like ball sports. They're like, did you play football?
Yeah.
And like, of course, like that's a journalist has a job, but
Hmm.
and now I'm like, okay, sure, I didn't do it exactly how you would have wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't do it for you. I did it for
No,
me. It's
exactly.
and now like those out of collective videos have gotten a lot more play. Uh, and as I've become a little bit known in the ski world, you inevitably get haters. Most of them are not serious skiers.
Oh
They're
yeah.
just dudes on the internet. Uh,
Yeah.
I feel that I'm lucky in that generally most people like me, especially if I get to spend time with them in person. Most
Nice.
people like me. Like
We like you.
in general, people like me. So I don't have like a ton of haters. And what I'm doing is niche enough that but like no matter what you do, people are like, who cares? Or like that's lame.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, okay, sure.
Sure.
Simply don't do it then.
Exactly.
Like dude, I don't know. If it's lame, then I don't know, don't watch the video that you just watched. Oops.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
don't derive
It's
entertainment from it.
it's funny, we were just talking about this literally last night.
Hmm.
I posted, like, for example, I posted a video on YouTube the other day, and it was from a podcast that Naveed and I recorded a while ago, and it was about a very like sentimental moment that I had with my dad in the beginning of me getting sober,
Hmm.
and it was like a very moving time for me and a big reason why I'm sober today. So I post this video and it's like popping off on YouTube.
Yeah.
And of course, in the comment section, instead of like, most people are like, this is awesome. Like, that's so cool that you could have that moment with your dad and like that it was so influential. There's always the people that are like, oh, you said meth and amphetamines popped up on your drug test. So the same thing. Like, don't try and act cool. And it's like, believe me, nothing about doing meth and amphetamines is cool. They're separate things, and there's nothing cool about that. But I like it's so it's an interesting thing where like people start nitpicking, and I'm sure you've gotten that, and every person, athlete, podcaster, whatever,
Yeah,
gets
the
some
minute you
level of
put
that.
yourself out there.
Yeah, it's like you don't have anything better to do than to like tell me that I misspoke on something. Like, this is I the only reason this is my job and why I do this today is because I'm like trying to talk about something a little bit deeper and put myself out there, and like No, that probably doesn't look good on a job application. Like, if somebody wants to hire me, they're gonna like look at my podcast and be like, "This guy is fucking crazy." Like,
Yeah,
like what?
yeah. I'm not doing this like people like us are like I, I'm not doing this to get rich. I'm doing this to do this. I'm not doing this
Yeah,
to have a career in skiing. If something develops, phenomenal. I'm doing this to do this, to try hard for 1 year, to try to be the best at something that I can be for 1 year. I don't think I've ever in my
yeah,
life tried hard and really tried to be the best that I could be at something. I know I haven't.
yeah,
I certainly not in school, never in sports
yeah,
before. I never tried to be the best version of Noah. So
yeah,
so that's what this is about. It's about a lot of things, but that's one of the things is I want to know what it's like to try really hard at one thing for a year. See what that feels
yeah,
like. Some people ask like flippant, but also probably most true answer too. Why do you want to ski 3 million vertical feet in the air? To see what it feels like.
yeah.
Like I want to know
And
what it feels like to be fully invested, to have all of Noah trying to do one thing. And that includes doing things like podcasts and, learning to be in this industry. It makes everything I'm doing now is about this one thing, 3 million vertical feet.
yeah, and it's a pretty freaking incredible accomplishment, and that's why I was so excited to get you on the podcast today, because it's my whole brand and my whole deal in life is highlighting cool people, cool stories, and giving them the platform that they deserve.
Uh-huh.
Um, and something I wanted to bring up is what what has your mental health been like on the road? Like, I this has got to be incredibly taxing, not only on your body but on like the mental strain of this. Like, this is not an easy thing that you're doing, and it takes an incredible amount of dedication to be like, I'm gonna wait. I feel like shit right now, but I'm waking up and I'm skiing my 10,000 vertical feet and breaking that mental barrier. And I'm sure there's days when you're at 5,000 feet and you're like, oh shit, you know, there's gonna be those moments. What has that experience been like for you?
Yeah. It's a lot of things. I'll talk about it and, stop me if I ramble too much because,
Yeah,
at some point, walking up, ski touring is just walking. I can walk. There's no day that I can't walk. I've learned some tricks like, to, to get myself to be better. Uh, and so most days, it's no problem. Most days I just go and do my thing. Some laps are easier, some laps are harder. It's hot, it's cold. Sometimes it's hard. There was a week in France where the conditions, it was just mush. Boot top, mush, no refreeze and hot. It's February. I'm supposed to be skiing powder in Chamonix. I'm not supposed to be skiing mush and dirt like
yeah,
around. Like I was I was a little frustrated. So I started to lie to myself a lot. So because I'm so far ahead because of that January, uh, I would say, you know what, Noah, you are so far ahead today. It's misting and mush. Go ski 5,000 feet. That's all you have to do. That was a lie. That was a
yep,
complete and utter lie. But that
yeah,
got you at the door, right? That 5,000 feet, I can ski 5,000 feet. 10,000 is a lot of feet. Before this year, I had
yeah,
I think under 10 days, I think five maybe, where I'd skied 10,000 feet or more.
yeah,
So, but 5,000, no problem.
yeah,
So, I'd say go ski 5,000. Okay. You feel like shit for 1, 2, 3, 4,000. Get an espresso. You get to five. Okay. I feel, your legs are starting to lose, you're feeling okay. All right. You're at five. Go ski seven. Cause then it's not like, even if you quit at seven, it's not a big loss. Like it's negligible. Uh,
yeah,
and once you're at seven, What am I going to do? 3,000 feet? What? In 2 hours at most? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll just go ski another couple hours. And boom,
Yeah.
10,000 feet. So that's one. That's a, a, a chronic lie. Uh, and now I'll say it to myself occasionally and be like, you're lying to yourself, but you just need to believe the tiniest smidgen. You need to have that opportunity to quit so that it doesn't feel like the whole world is ahead of you. Give yourself an out where you'll still be happy, and that's enough to get going, just to take a
Yeah.
little bit of the burden off your shoulder. Um, another another one is, hold on. Um, so it's goal setting, and it's the little wins, which I did not know I was this goal motivated. I had absolutely no
Yeah.
idea. I had zero clue that I was this goal motivated. And the 3 million is really a background goal right now. I don't think about 3 million almost ever. That's too big, too far away. I think about, can I get to 70,000 this week, which I'll be really stoked about because that's 10K a day at elevation living in my truck. If I can do that, that would be really cool. I think about getting to, 300,000 in a month, or, even the first 1%. Once I got to 30,000, 1%. Okay, you've done 1%. Now you don't have 99 point something percent, you have 99%.
Yeah.
And then in celebrating those goals too. I was really excited about the first million. I was proud of that. I posted about it. That was cool. I'm excited that in a few days I will, unless something happens, and I always could, I'll get to halfway. I'll get to 1.5 million feet. That's so much. I'm going to be really excited about that. And I'm going to enjoy it, and then I'll move on. But I'm going to enjoy that. I'm not going to be puritanical about it and say nothing matters until 3 million, because I
Yeah.
don't think that's a way to live life. I think it's just critical that there's lots of small moments of joy. And there's many moments of joy that are unrelated to the numbers. And I try to highlight them personally and posting uh, all the lovely things that aren't just numbers, because this is about so much more than numbers.
Yeah.
But celebrating wins. Uh, don't over celebrate. You got to move on because there are other things you got to win. But celebrating wins is has been really critical, and it's just a way to give yourself a little hit of dopamine, feel proud, move on. The bigger, halfway will be that's a big milestone for me. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited. That's what's been on my mind, is getting to halfway.
And there's very few human beings that have made it to 1 million vertical feet. There's very few humans that have made it to 1.5 million. There's You could look at it in steps of 10,000. If you ski 10,000 vertical feet in a day, you're in a pretty small category, actually. Like
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of the world, you're in a pretty small category of individuals that could do 10,000 vertical feet in a day. And that's a pretty awesome achievement. And it's funny, this gets brought up a lot around friends of mine. The way that you compartmentalize this is similar to how I compartmentalize like my recovery. And I cannot think about, at 50 years old, I'm never going to have a drink again. At 60 years old, I'm never going to do coke again. If I were to think like that, I would drive myself crazy. So in the back of my head, I jokingly say to friends, "Oh, someday I'll do that drug with you. Someday I'll sit down and have
Have a beer.
a whiskey on ice with you." Because in the back of my mind, if I think that way of like, if I have that out, like you were
Yeah.
mentioning, it's a lot easier for me to think someday. But then 24 hours go by and I put my head on the pillow and I'm like, "Oh man, there it goes. Another 24 hours without a
Yep.
drink or drug. That was pretty cool." So then I wake up the next morning and it happens again. And those days just start stacking up, and then years stack on top of years, and years turn into decades. And that is how I have to look at my life.
Uh-huh.
Because if you were to look at the 3 million miles and you keep looking at your Garmin and you're at 1.2 and you're at 9,000 feet on a day and you're, you can barely move your legs because they're jello. Like, that's a pretty daunting feeling,
Yeah,
thinking,
it's
oh God, I got
yeah.
1.6 million to go. But it's like, no, you've got
I have 1,000.
1,000, yeah, to go, and you can do that. Like,
There's
that's,
never been a time that I can't. It might not be fun, but I haven't been able to do one more lap. I truly
yeah,
believe that in my sporting career, there's never been a time where if I needed to go do one more lap, that I couldn't do it.
yeah.
So, okay,
And
go do it then, kid.
yeah, and it's funny how there's so many parallels in the world that people don't really think to understand or want to understand, that a random person walking down the street, if you were to say, oh yeah, there's this guy Noah Dines, he's walking 3 million feet uphill, 99.999% of the population couldn't even compute that. Really, they would just be like, what does that even mean? What does 3 million vertical feet even mean? And then there's a small population of like people like me that ski at a high level and ski backcountry, but I couldn't imagine doing 3 million feet. And then there's the people that are like, oh man, that's a fucking huge goal, but maybe I could do that. And I, what you're doing to me is pretty incredible. What you're doing, I think, for the sport in a lot of ways is incredible, because I've had professional skiers, and my boot fitter Dano has been in the industry. Dano Bruno has been in the ski boot and tech industry for his entire career. And there's one very common thread within the ski industry, and that would be that really the last 20 years or even more, skiing has been pretty similar. You take a lift up and you ski down. Like, technology has improved to a certain extent, but like, we're still using a 3-piece cabrio boot that was invented 30 years ago. It's just a modern idea of it. We're still using a 2-piece boot that was invented however long ago.
Yeah,
There hasn't been a lot of like astronomical change to it. You take the lift up, you put these sticks on your feet, and you go downhill. And and I think what you're doing is something that the ski world, it's seen to a certain extent before with records and stuff, but this is like, this goes far beyond anything that the ski industry has seen. And I think it's, excuse my language, pretty fucking awesome, man. And I wish I would have been following along for longer. I wish the algorithm would have pushed me to 500,000 vertical feet ago, but it's pretty cool. I didn't even know you were here in Colorado. I would have driven up to Berthoud Pass and we could have just sat in the back of the truck together. I'm only 45 minutes from Berthoud Pass. So,
come ski this weekend.
yeah, it's, I think that achieving goals and showing people that things like this is possible, this, you achieving a goal like this goes way beyond just skiing. Like, maybe somebody's studying for the LSAT or taking a medical exam, feels like, oh man, I can't do that. And who knows, maybe they come across your Out of Collective video and they think, whoa, if that guy can do that, I think I can study another hour and finish this. And unbeknownst to you, I think it probably is affecting people that you'll never know about. They're silently in the background, maybe watching what you're doing, or they see a video or something and it inspires some level of hope. It definitely has inspired hope in me. I was complaining. We've got a athlete photo shoot for Zeal Optics on Loveland Pass tomorrow, and they said call times at 5 a.m. And I thought, 5 a.m. Okay, so that means I got to be up in Denver around 3. Car's got to be packed at 3:30, and I got to be at Loveland Pass with my shit touring stuff on, like going,
Ready to
film
go.
crew ready to go. And I'm like, oh man. But then I'm like, whoa, I'm recording this podcast with this guy. I got nothing to complain about. So I hope it made an impact on me. That's why I reached out to you. I think it's making an impact in ways that you probably have no idea. Um, and maybe we'll never know. Like, there's always people in the background that are silent supporters, people that believe in what you're doing. Uh, and yeah, it's, I tip my cap to you, man. This is a wild journey you're on. If you have kids someday, or when you're 70, you're gonna sit in your rocker and look at this and be like, "Holy shit, that's pretty cool." That's that's pretty freaking cool, man. So you've got this goal. What is? I know you probably haven't even thought this far in advance.
I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where do you think that this ends? Like, what's the goal for the maybe the last day? You're at
Oh, I'm
two
at Stowe.
million at
Well,
Stowe.
first of all, I better be by. I think something will have gone wrong if I'm hitting my 3 millionth foot then. Uh, but no, I'm gonna be at Stowe, surrounded by my community, by people I love, people I care about, kids that I've coached and taught in the past. Hopefully, my dad, as part of this, has promised to do one lap touring. He's never toured in his life. Uh,
Wow.
so I'm hoping that we do the promised lap beforehand, then maybe he even likes it, and so one lap, just a big party lap at Stowe with everybody I care about is
That's
that's
amazing,
that's the
man.
only yeah that's about the end. That's the only thing that I've thought about is that, and I'm so committed to the end being at Stowe.
It's a good
Stowe
one.
committed. I like that. If if there's one piece that you could take from this whole situation and achievement and goal, one takeaway for a listener that you know, telling somebody that this is possible or whatever, I'm sure is told all the time, but is there one takeaway that you've learned from this that you'd want to pass on to the ski community?
Yeah, go do something hard, whatever it is, and you can do it.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about it, you can probably do it. Go give it a
Yeah.
shot. Just try. Just give it a shot, whatever it is. Just whatever. Also, skiing's fun. Make sure you're having fun. Like, it's just go have fun and
Yeah.
do something hard, and it's probably going to be fun while you're doing it too.
Yeah.
Just get out there. Just come on. Let's go.
I feel when you first had the thought when you're driving home from Burlington, Vermont, from this crappy date, uh, was there a thought in the back of your mind that this was a total pipe dream, or was it pretty quickly you're like, oh shit, I can do this?
The skiing has never been a pipe dream. I've been, and I still have a lot of room to fail. I'm just around
Yep.
halfway. There's a lot of room to fail.
Yep.
The year won't be a failure, but to get to 3 million, there's still a lot of room to fail. Uh, that's never been what I'm too worried about. I've had a little bit of quiet faith and quiet, or maybe not quiet, ego with the skiing. The logistics, the money, the everything else, that's felt like a pipe dream, and I'd mentally kind of quit a couple times before starting. I'd quit more mentally before starting than after. Once I started, you're going. Uh, but the build up, like we were talking about earlier, was really hard. The physical build up was great. The rest of it was challenging. Uh, so
Yeah.
so the making it happen, as I said, has felt like a pipe dream at times. The Noah Dine ski 9,090 feet a day? Now that seems like a small number. Of course you can. That's not even, that's barely going skiing. Uh,
Yeah.
so the making it happen has felt like a pipe dream, and continues to be the hardest part. The The going skiing, no, you just keep walking. You can always do another lap.
Yeah. Well, Noah, it's been amazing hearing about this story and this adventure. I know for a fact our audience is going to eat this up. This is what you're doing is totally pun intended moving mountains. Uh, and it really is cool. And I hope I'm sure there's times that it feels overwhelming and everything, but I hope there is a large ski community cheering you on. And like I mentioned, whether that's silently or they're sending you a message or whatever, people are going to see this through with you. And, I hope that the end is everything that you hoped and dreamed that it would be, that you would achieve this goal, and that I just had this kid on, Benny Harrington, who's an Olympic half pipe skier. I recorded an episode with him last week, and he was talking about this kind of common term that's used in the Olympics about the Olympic hangover. That it's
Hmm.
like you go to the Olympics, you compete on the world's biggest stage, everyone in the world is watching you, and then when you finish it, it's like, what do I do now? I did it. Like, the goal's done. I made it to the highest point you can possibly get in sports, and it's done. And I asked him, like, is the next goal making it to the next Olympics? And he's like, you can't really think like that. You have to like literally think, okay, I just did the Olympics. That was really cool. But now I've got X Games. I've got Dew Tour. I've got all these other goals in my life that maybe they're not as big as skiing 3 million vertical feet or going to the Olympics, but there's still these goals and feats that we'll have within our life that can and will still feel like wins. I think it's very easy for athletes to be like, definitely happened with me after my injury, that I was like, oh, I'll never ski like that again. I'll never ski the way that I did. And in my head in the beginning, it was like, then like, what's the point? There was times I was saying, I'll never ski again. Like, there's no point. I put my whole life to something and it was all pulled away. And it's so, I hope that when you come to the end of this, it is like, I hit that W. That was incredible. I'll never forget this experience. But that, I hope you don't have that Olympic hangover, and it's more keeping in the back of your mind, like, I just did something incredible, and like, what's the next incredible thing I can do? So people are looking out for you, man, whether you know it or not. We're here in Colorado. You need anything, call us. We are a 30-40 minute drive away. You need a warm cooked meal, we'll bring it.
Yeah.
I
If
won't
nothing
say
else,
no.
that's
Yeah,
I'll leave you with a
absolutely.
cool anecdote about community. That a cool thing that the longtime followers will know is that in Stowe, this thing started happening, and then I posted about it, and it happened all the time. Is people would just open the door to my truck and put food in it, which then became hashtag truck treats. So I would often go skiing and come back to either like a meal or like eggs from somebody's chickens, and that was cool. That was just a real cool bit of the ski world where people would just throw shit in my truck and I'd eat it. And that was just a cool
Yeah,
little way that, like you were saying, there are people, and I know, uh, supporting me, and it's been really, the people make the project.
yeah, and it's a damn cool one, man. So I
Thank
tip
you.
my cap to you. I know the whole ski world is tipping their cap to you, and you better believe I'll be following along. And like I said, you need anything, we are a phone call away. So uh, thank you for coming on. If you want to take a
I'm
picture.
taking a picture for the podcast studio.
Woo! Well, again, thank you for coming on. Um, this is it's been amazing talking to you. I hope, like I said, that this is everything that you hope it will be, and more. And to all the listeners, again, thank you for all the support with this podcast. We are reaching goals we never thought were possible when we started this thing a few months ago. I know that Noah is on Instagram, so go give him a follow. If you have questions, I'm sure he'll answer them for you. Responsive guy. And this episode will be coming out, I think, next Wednesday. So, yeah, everyone be on the lookout. Again, thank you for tuning into the Falling Off the Floor podcast. We are out.